Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
So, Mike, what is your history with Tomb Raider?
The most I know about this game is Angelina Jolie and the joke about the developers making her boobs way too big just because they thought it was funny. That's about all I know with this game.
Wow. All right. I have played some of the newer ones.
Oh, okay.
But those are more just like straight up like open world action games. Nothing like this.
I've seen some of the newer ones. I don't remember the last one I watched someone play, but it looked phenomenal. It looked really good. It just, the way I've always thought of it about this series is just a female Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I like them. I never beat either of them. I don't think I even got that far, but I've played a few of them, enough to like get what the game is, but not enough to get too deep into it. And even as far as the original ones, I had a demo that I want to say had Tomb Raider 2 on it. I had like 3 demo discs as a kid. So like every demo that we've talked about so far has all been on those, which I still have, by the way.
So what was the demo for Tomb Raider 2?
I honestly only remember starting it and getting killed by an animal.
Because I'm unsure if it's 1 or 2, but I remember having a demo as well. And my friend and I tried so much just to beat the demo. And we couldn't figure it out. We didn't know what we were doing wrong. We didn't know what we were supposed to do. And you start in like a jail cell, I think. And I think the whole point is just to get out of the jail cell and then kill some people and solve a puzzle maybe. But we never made it that far just because it was so confusing on what we were supposed to do.
I just remember it being really hard and I would just keep getting killed and then give up.
I think that's mainly for a lot of reasons we're going to get into later in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a whole thing.
Which I guess is a good way to start it because we knew that this game was coming up and we were both not happy to start this game. So I wanted to know, like, what was your reasoning behind not being happy to even play this game?
Well, I've always seen online that this one specifically is, at least the first couple on the PS1, did not age well. Now, I didn't know why. You can make assumptions for sure. Like a lot of these games are too hard, things don't make sense, doesn't run well, whatever. But I just knew that there was going to be some reason I wouldn't like this game, and I was not looking forward to that.
Oh, I mean, that makes sense. With me, it was because of that demo. Just the poor experience I had with that. It's always carried with me for the Tomb Raider series, so I just never played them because of that demo. So I kind of had a negative thought going into this, and I was really, really hoping that, okay, I'm just going to play this game, and let's hope that that demo didn't justify the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember enough of it from being a kid. So, like, the most memories I have of Tomb Raider are probably from the movies, honestly.
Oh, I don't even think I even saw the movies.
I want to say my dad took me to go see the first one because it was like a video game movie. So I was like excited about it, even though I didn't play the game.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it was the same thing. I watched the Resident Evil movies, the Final Fantasy movie that really sucked too.
I never knew there was a Final Fantasy movie until right now. So
Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. It's really something.
Oh, is that just the full animated one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have seen that. My one roommate in college was obsessed with that movie and would watch it every single day.
It's not even good though.
Yeah, I know, but he watched it all the time. So I kind of know that movie secondhand. But before we actually get into the game, I realized over the past few episodes, with a few of the games, we always say, if the game just had this, it would have been like a high 9, maybe high 8 or high 9, but we never say 10. What would a game have to have for it to be a 10 in your books?
Yeah, you brought this up to me that you wanted to talk about this on either this episode or another one. And I'm thinking about it, and there's not really any concrete thing that would make a game a 10, right? But I was trying to think of games that I would give a 10. So one that came to mind was Persona 5.
Oh, okay. Just not even 4. You just went 5.
Well, I just think 5 is better than 4. So from a gameplay perspective anyway. But no, like, it just does exactly what it sets out to do. And every single thing about it is perfect. It's just so well done in every single aspect of the game. There's not really that one thing that's frustrating or that one thing that's let down. That to me is a 10. Like even the original Dark Souls, which is one of my favorite games ever, I wouldn't call a 10 just because there are some glaring things about it that you can't ignore. Like I love it, but at the same time, it's not a 10.
And that's how I am with the Stars Until the End of Time. It's one of my favorite games, and I wouldn't even say that's a 10. It's probably like a high 8, maybe, but there are things wrong with it, and I accept that. My thinking about the whole 10 is just to make it simple, just a game that you can play for hours on end and never get tired of. There's no glaring flaws that make you regret or not want to keep going into the game. You're never angry that you have to play the game some more. It's always a delight every single time you load up that game. So for me, I'm thinking like the Persona series, specifically like 4, because that's the one I played. I thought of that and how it took a month to play, but that entire month I enjoyed it every single second that we were playing. And then additionally, like even Stardew Valley, which I've put so many hours into, I would still say that's like a high 9, not exactly a 10 level. It's just really hard to think of like what would a 10 game be.
I personally think that The Binding of Isaac is a 10, but you know,
that's the answer I thought you were going to give.
Yeah, well, you know, that's an easy one because it's my favorite game. But so there's so many expansions to that game. Like the most recent one came out a couple of years ago, and I think like over time it became closer and closer to a 10.
But the original wasn't.
No, I don't think so. Because it's one of those things where they're constantly, even now, like rebalancing and changing the way items work and like constantly buffing and strengthening other things. And it's just, you can never, like, how can you judge a game at that exact moment, right? So for me, like The Binding of Isaac as a whole is definitely a 10.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I tried to think of like really specific examples of games. I think the closest I could think of is Stardew Valley for me. But then again, you play way more games than I do. So you have more experience and knowledge on all the different games.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't really think a lot of games I play are 10s because there's just things about them that, I don't know. For me, a 10 just has to be something where there's nothing you can point to that is wrong with it. Like it might have minor things. Yeah, but like if you get a game, you love it, but you still know there's parts of it that suck, it's not a 10. It's a 10 to you, but like in a critical sense, it's not a 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get that.
Like one of my other favorite games, you know, Deadly Premonition. I forget if we've talked about this on here or not, but
I think we have, or maybe as behind the scenes, we talked about it. Yeah.
Amazing game. I love it. That game's not even a 7 in the real scope of things.
Exactly. I think I've seen gameplay of it and I'm like, this looks a little harsh in some spots, but
yeah, it's a terrible game and I love it.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing is, and that's pretty much why I wanted to ask that question, because in the grand scope of all these PlayStation games, it's like, what would we ever consider a 10? So I think we're pretty much on the same page of what it would take. And we've even discussed even before the show that it's going to be very, very rare that we get a 10.
I mean, I'm wondering when there's going to be a 9, you know?
That is true. Yeah, because our highest is a 7.5. So
I gave an 8 to Einhander, so.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah. So, I mean, we're getting there, but I think if anything, I think after all these games, we're going to have maybe like 5 10s, if that, at the very end of it.
So just off the top of my head, I'll say this. Metal Gear Solid might be a 10. Tony Hawk might be a 10.
Maybe.
I think maybe a Crash or a Spyro game could be a 10.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there, you know?
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, I think that's a good answer. And we should probably get into this game so we can just get through all this.
Yeah, let's get this shit over with. Tomb Raider was released for the PlayStation on November 14th, 1996, developed by Core Design and published by Eidos. The game is listed everywhere as an action-adventure game, but I don't know that I really agree with that necessarily.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more of an adventure puzzle. or an adventure platformer is what I was thinking.
I don't know if you see here, I wrote down horror too, because I definitely think there is a horror element to this game.
I'm confused of that in the rundown. Why? Okay, let's start from the beginning. How long did you play this?
I played for about 3 to 3.5 hours, somewhere in there.
That's about what I did too. So, what parts are you talking about that were horror-esque?
You never got jump scared in this game.
No, not at all.
You never felt the unease.
No.
Come on.
For me, it's just like with some of the, or all the enemies will make a sound before they attack. So they make their presence known.
So there was one part specifically that got me, and it was one of the, I want to say the 3rd or 4th level. And I'm doing stuff, and then I just hear footsteps. And I don't see anything. And then I turn around, and there's just a dinosaur there.
Oh, I don't think I had that happen to me.
And then on the last level that I played, there was part where I was solving the puzzle, and I was in an area I had already been in. Like, it's not like anything was like changed. But when I actually hit the switch, a gorilla came at me.
It's just so funny. Just those 2 examples you gave, how out of context and crazy that sounds in a video game.
Yeah, I know.
I get that then. I think you made it a bit farther than I did then. But yeah, I did know there were parts where I'm like, oh, I hear something moving, but I don't know what it is. And then it would make it sound. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a wolf or a dinosaur. So I would just walk up and shoot them.
I mean, really, the enemies don't mean anything anyway, because you have unlimited ammo besides, like, for the pistols anyway. So you're just shooting over and over again.
Yeah. So I guess the beginning of this game is you're an explorer, I guess.
Lara Croft.
And you're just sent out on a mission, I think, is to grab an artifact, is all that the lady wants from the laptop.
I mean, I think the opening cutscene is pretty good. I mean, I don't have any objections to that.
No, out of all the 3D models we've dealt with, it seems like these might be the worst of them. But they were very ambitious with a lot of the stuff they were doing.
It has that like movie feel, you know?
Yeah, trying to do all the camera movements and all the action-y stuff and trying to build up like this secret spy-esque lady.
Yeah, I mean, she's a badass.
Yeah. I will say her vertical leap is very impressive.
Yeah. All right, so let's just rip off the Band-Aid. The controls in the camera are fucking just disastrous.
It's yeah, that's the only way you can put it. I can't think of anything else.
It hurts.
I found myself fighting with the camera most of my playthrough.
I just thought the controls were so fucking bad. It's just, for a platformer, like a game that is mostly platforming and puzzle solving, you can't even fucking move around easy.
It's the weirdest decision that pushing up is an automatic run. I don't know why that was an option.
I only got used to it towards the end when I always remembered to hold the button to walk.
And it's also, if you're running and you try to go into a walk, it's not instantaneous. It's a delay where she'll run and then slow down to a walk. So there's times I ran off of an edge because I was trying to walk to get to the edge.
I couldn't even tell you how many times I ran off of edges, dude. You'll see in the footage, there's probably 2 different times where, or pretty early on, I was doing a seemingly simple platforming thing, and it took me like 10 times.
Do you remember what it was that you had to do?
One of the first ones I do remember, it was, you're just climbing up this thing, and if you fail, you fall back into water.
That's in one of those temples, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just early in my playthrough, so like, I hadn't gotten used to it yet, and I just kept fucking it up, and I just kept falling. And I'm like, is this what this is going to be this whole time?
It really is. And on that specific one too, I was making it up. I was doing well. I was just being patient, taking my time. I get up there and I get to a ledge, and a bat comes down out of nowhere and hits me and knocks me off the ledge, and I fall all the way back down to the bottom. And it reminded me of the complaints we had about Crash Bandicoot with the tumbly platforms, and you were complaining about when you're all the way up at the top and then you fall all the way down to the bottom and have to do it all over again. That is this entire game on every single level. It's, oh, you failed, now you're at the bottom, now you got to go back up. Oh, you failed, now you're at the bottom, now you got to go back up. And it's like, I don't know how much I can take of this.
So just for context, I made it to the 5th level. I just checked.
What is the 5th level?
St. Francis's Folly.
So, okay, that's what the lions and the gorillas.
I have up a full playthrough just to have it going while we're talking. Mostly gorillas. What happened to me was I was working my way through it. It took me a little bit to figure out the first area. I finally get it. Then I get to this second area, and it's just this giant room with like 5 or 6 different levels that you have to constantly platform through and go back and forth between. And I did a little bit of it, and then I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm done with this. I can't do it anymore.
Which is, perfect because I gave up on this exact level too. However, you did make it a little bit farther than I did. I gave up on the room whenever the very first room you go into with all the monkeys or the gorillas.
With the tall pillars?
Literally, like you push the block to open up the door. You go in and then the door closes behind you and there's 3 gorillas in there.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I tried forever to go through there. First tried shooting them. That didn't work. Then I saw that there was a lever on the far end. So I ran, hit that lever, found another lever. Because of how terrible it is to even walk up to a lever, I couldn't pull the second one.
Fucking nightmare.
Yeah, and I just kept dying. So that was my quitting point. I looked at the walkthrough after that. And then this person just shoots and kills the gorillas like it's nothing. And I'm like, how?
Bad news for you, buddy. That's what I did. I just shot him with the pistols.
I sat there and was like pouring bullet upon bullet into these gorillas. And they weren't going down. But yet I watched this gameplay and they were dying instantly, almost.
I just walked right in and I just held down the shoot button until they were dead.
I tried that and it did not work. So I don't know what happened on my end.
I never died except for like falling from a high place at all, pretty much. Like I died from the T-Rex, obviously, until I figured out what to do there. But other than that, like I don't find this game hard at all. You're fighting the controls, really.
That is the best way to put it. The enemies are just a nuisance, and the controls are your biggest enemy to fight this entire game.
I did die. There's the one part, I want to say it's on the 3rd level, where you finally get to leave this temple, and there's like a dude there with a gun.
For no reason.
I did die to him. But then the second time, I'm like, okay, fuck you then. And then I went to like a different little area, and I came out and then just killed him.
And especially how, like, it's when you're in water, and then he just runs out and starts shooting you. You're already defenseless. You can't shoot back. At least whenever I discovered them. I was like, how is this fair at all? So I had to swim over to the ledge, get out, and then start shooting them. It's like my health is already almost gone because of that.
I always found that I had more than enough like med kits though.
Oh, they are very grateful on how much they give you. Going back to the T-Rex thing, the whole dinosaur aspect about this game makes no sense.
I think it's like fucking kind of lame, honestly.
And I don't understand, like, the whole thing, at least my previous understanding of Tomb Raider is it's supposed to be like in the real world.
Yeah, like it's realistic.
Exactly. So why have these velociraptors? Why have this giant T-Rex? It's just out of nowhere with no reasoning behind why it's there.
Or at least save them for the end. Like, if you waited till the end of the game and then there was like all kinds of crazy shit going on, I'd at least understand that. But like, what is it? The 2nd level, 3rd level? Like,
now, did you defeat the T-Rex the correct way?
I shot him repeatedly with a shotgun.
Okay, we're going to come back to that comment you just made.
Okay.
But I didn't know where to go. Like, so whenever I went through, I killed the velociraptors and I found like this little pathway off to the side. I'm running. Oh, here comes the T-Rex. And I booked it and I ran to that little pathway because I'm like, oh, there's no way he can fit back here. This is probably designed for you to hide in and get away from him. No, he somehow got back there and killed me. I don't know how. So the second time is I lured him all the way back to the very beginning. Like I just booked it to where I came from. And you can jump up on a ledge. So I jumped up on there. He couldn't get me and I would shoot him. And I just waited. And he would occasionally pop into frame and then walk out. And I just sat there and waited until he popped into frame, got a few shots off. And then finally he charged at me again. Because I found out that if you jump off the ledge and your feet touch the ground, it activates the boss again. So he'd start coming over and I'd jump back up to the ledge. And I kind of just had to cheese it because that's the most I could do. And it screwed me because the way he died right on my path where I was supposed to go. And you can't jump over him that well because it creates like a barrier.
Like there's like collision.
Yeah. My game was glitching. I had to like do these backflips over the dinosaur to get where I was even going because I kind of blocked myself in doing it that way.
That sounds ridiculous.
Well, yeah, and then after more exploring, I found the correct way to actually do it. There's like a hidden path off to the right. I went to the left. And then from there, you get a vantage point that you can snipe them from the top of the cliff. But where did the shotgun come from?
It's in that level.
Where?
Okay, so like you go back and the whole point of that level is to get those gears, right? So where you go and put the gears in, like right across from there, you can jump across and there's a shotgun sitting there.
I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, I mean, you only have a little bit of ammo for it, and it actually does have limited ammo. So I just repeatedly pumped him in the face with it like 5 times, and he died.
I had shotgun ammunition. I was like, okay, I guess at some point I'm going to find a shotgun. And I never did. So I just had the ammo for a shotgun. And I had ammo for a Magnum. And I never even found a Magnum either to use.
I never found Magnum ammo.
It was... So a big part of this game too, in every level there are secrets. It was one of the levels with a lot of swimming. And you had to go and find a special... Yeah, you had to find a lever hidden behind a pillar underwater. You pull that, it opens up a secret door, and then you go into that secret door, and then there's Magnum ammo in there.
I do like how in this game, unlike Blood Omen, when you find a secret, it plays a little sound.
Yeah. And the sound actually sounded like, to me, it kind of gave me like 007 vibes.
Yeah, I could see that. The music kind of has that vibe too, a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And the music isn't bad at all. I like the music.
I didn't like the music when it gets really intense because then it like stresses me out.
For me, and maybe this was just mine, it just seemed like it was mainly no music. And the music only played when you were getting close to doing something.
I like that.
You did. I hated that.
I just think if there was music the entire time, it would get rid of the tension that it's trying to build.
I guess. I do get that then.
It's like Dark Souls. You know what I mean? Dark Souls is that exact same thing. There's only music when there's certain areas and boss fights.
So the music gets queued up as you're like progressing towards something. But I noticed if you take too long, the music kind of just fades off. And even if you're in that section, it's like, yeah, we already played you the song. We're done now.
That happened to me every single time.
It's like, I'm still in the area. Just keep playing that song. It was a good song. I liked listening to that.
I just think that, the lack of music really contributes to a feeling of just like being alone in this like temple. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to create that atmosphere of like, you're this explorer alone in this place that nobody's been in a long time. So just hearing footsteps, just hearing, minor things. I think that adds a lot to the atmosphere and the vibe for sure.
I definitely get that. It was just always, it was off whenever there was music. Because you get so used to that ambience and you get so used to nothing. So when music does play, you're like, well, why?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really feel that strongly one way or the other about it. I liked the more like melodic music whenever you would like discover something. It was like that ethereal sounding stuff. I really like that. But the stuff that was meant to stress you out did just that to me. So I was just kind of like, all right,
Yeah. How did you feel about trying to interact with levers and picking stuff up?
Well, okay. Do you have anything else positive to say about this game?
I made so this actually gives you a full view of what I was thinking. I had to make a list of what did they do right in all of my notes because I'm like, well, we do need to talk about some positives here.
That's why I figured we could kind of go through like the things we liked and then we'll get into the controls and stuff more.
So right off the bat, I love that they have a tutorial level.
Very satisfying. And I love that there's like voiceover by her.
Yeah, it was very nice. Kind of just, it teaches you about the game without really seeming like a tutorial level. Like you're exploring her house. The areas where they teach you how to jump and stuff. The running jump did confuse me because I was trying to like get used to the controls in the first place. So I wasn't really listening to what she was saying. And then I was like, well, now I need to hear what you were saying. And I don't know what you said. So I had to figure out how to re-trigger her to say that again.
Yeah. I mean, I just figured it really just lets you know what you're in for in every way.
Which, yeah, we'll get more into the mechanics of all that too. But I love how walking doesn't put you off the edge.
I do like that because it's pretty much mandatory.
Yeah, it's a good way to just like creep your way up to the very end. And then you can use your camera view to look around and see if there's anything you're missing or where you're supposed to go next.
Yeah, or you just like you walk around and you set up what you're about to do.
Which is, I think, and as you alluded to, it's the only way to play this game because you can't be fast about it. You have to be slow and methodical with every single movement you do.
No, this is an extremely just, you have to think about everything you're doing. Don't just try and, be like me and not be patient.
Exactly.
I will say, I didn't use any sort of assistance for this. I used a few save states at the very end just because I was like at my wit's end with it. But that was just like, I'm going to stop playing this. So let me just use these save states to kind of like maybe beat this level. And then I didn't. And then I said, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah, I never did any of that, which some of the save points is frustrating on how far they are away from where you are currently. I don't know if I just did things out of order, specifically on the gear level with the dinosaurs, because you get up to the gears, and I think there's a save point when you get there. And so if you die after you're in the dinosaur area, you now have to go back, start at the gear part, work your way all the way back to the dinosaur part to do it all over again.
I mean, even on that level, I had a really hard time with the jumps across like the river.
Yep. They were so inconsistent. I did it once, and then there's another time I'm like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. And I tried going back up there again, and I kept hitting my head off of the wall.
You have to like jump like angled left a little bit.
Yep. And then I just kept going down the waterfall and getting so frustrated.
That was the moment where I learned you have to be slow and methodical or you're going to have a really bad time.
Yep. So that kind of leads us to how the game looks. Because...
like shit.
Yeah. Because on that level specifically, I was lost for the longest time. Because there's that area when you're down in the caves and you have to like jump up. And that's where you get to the dinosaur part. I didn't see that ledge at all. So I'm like running around. And it wasn't until like my third time going down there, I happened to see something up on top. I'm like, wait a minute, I can get up there? And I then had to figure out where the ledge was for me to jump up, and just how bad everything looks. It's hard to tell where you're allowed to go and where you're not.
So a couple of levels later, I had a really hard time. It's the one where you go in and you go up to the top and a boulder falls down at you.
Yeah, yeah.
When you finally make it through a little bit more of that, there's one part where you're pushing a block and you're supposed to look to the left and you're supposed to see there's another block you can push that way. I just didn't see that.
Oh.
Because it's so hard to look around, and like, especially in a closed space like that, even if you hold down the button to look around, like you can't see shit, and like you just clip through everything. And I didn't even think to look because like I couldn't see anything.
I will say, out of the entire part that I played, I think that level is one of my favorites, just because of the variety of how to solve each of the 3 rooms was pretty nice.
Yeah, no, I thought it was cool. But that was like one of the only times I used a walkthrough because I was just so lost.
Oh, okay. Which I think, did you trigger the boulder before you actually completed all the puzzles?
I did it as soon as I got there.
Yeah, me too. And I think you're not supposed to. I think you're supposed to trigger the boulder after you solve everything, and then you come down the door.
Oh, like you're running from it.
Yeah. I think that was the intent, because I did the same thing where I triggered it early in the level. So then whenever there's that dramatic music and you're running, it's like, oh, the boulder's supposed to be chasing me right now, and it's not.
I didn't even realize that. You're right. Because it definitely is like trying to be like this big moment when really you're just like, all right, the level's over now.
Exactly. Which I figured that could have been in the game to have it not go off that early.
You would think so. Or maybe just another one could have happened.
Oh, yeah. I kind of thought there would be a second one, but
I thought it was just going to keep happening, but then I guess that would break it.
that is true.
Because then that's the way you leave. So it would just block it off.
What about more positives? The unlimited ammo on the pistols was a nice touch. They didn't have to be that generous.
Yeah, I just used them the entire time besides that one single part with the T-Rex. Another thing I do really like is whenever you're shooting and you get into a room, and if there's an enemy, she'll like aim at them automatically.
Yes. The auto aiming is a lifesaver. I think if we had to manually aim, we probably wouldn't have made it as far as we did into this game.
I don't think this game would even be remembered at all if you couldn't auto aim, honestly.
Although there were times like with bats and stuff, if they got like right behind you, it was a game of trying to run away before you could shoot.
Or if they, like, there was a certain part where they got on top of me,
Mhm.
And I'm just like, okay, I guess I can't shoot them where I'm at. But
Yeah. There's times with the dogs or the wolves where they cornered me and I just couldn't go anywhere. And I died because I couldn't jump out of the way because they kept interrupting my jump animation. And I learned never to do that again.
yeah, I mean, even on the part that I was like stuck on at the very end where I quit, there's like bats hidden everywhere. And it was really, really nice to like get to a new platform, see that she's aiming somewhere, and know that there's bats. I know it plays a sound effect too, but to like know generally where they're coming from because of her aiming, it is very helpful.
Did you get to the point where the instant she looked somewhere, you just started hitting the shoot button?
I was at the point where anytime I went to a new room ever, I pulled out the guns, and the second she aimed, I started firing immediately.
Yep. I'm like, I don't even care if I see what this thing is. The instant you're aiming somewhere off, I'm hitting the X button. I'm shooting it.
I mean, it's unlimited ammo. Why wouldn't you? There's no penalty.
Yeah. And I think that's what the main point of the game is like just hold the shoot button and then do your flips around to dodge things.
I think this game just shouldn't have combat.
What would you want it to be? Just a puzzle game, like a platformer?
I think so, yeah, because the combat doesn't add anything.
It doesn't. And even when you get to like the humans that you're fighting, it's just they just take more bullets. That's it. There's no added difficulty at all.
Well, like right now, I'm watching the part where you fight the bear, right? Like, even then, I just went up to a higher platform and just shot him.
Was that the one with the water in the middle of the room?
Yes.
Yeah, for that, it took me a while because I just couldn't get the bear in a position to shoot him. And it wasn't until he somehow found his way to the second floor across from me.
That exact same thing happened to me.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I just shot him there and it just seems like a lot of the enemies like that bear and the T-Rex. I think they just intend for you to die a lot before you can figure out a way to do it. And I don't even think the way I did it on both of them was the correct way. I think it was just the wrong way, but it worked for me.
I just really think the enemies are there just to keep you on edge a little bit. And that's really it. Like, it's not a challenge at all. It's just like when you get to a new room, you have to immediately be ready to fight gorillas or whatever. That's literally it. There's no mechanics. There's no interesting way to fight any of these enemies. It's just like go somewhere where they can't hit you and hold the shoot button.
The only way I could see it being better is if you just had limited ammo, because then you got to make every bullet count. When it's unlimited, there's no reason. It's just you're just having it in there for the sake of, oh, it's a gun. That's it.
Yeah, and if you had limited ammo, I think it would suck in a different way because then you would just be running around trying to solve the puzzles and not waste your ammo.
I agree. What did you think about the quick turnaround?
I thought it was cool, but I only used it like when there was the boulders, and that was it, pretty much.
Yeah, boulders, the T-Rex, I used it too.
Oh yeah, I did too. You're right.
But it was nice when you're like with the wolves. I'd run and then do a quick turnaround to shoot them. It's literally my exact argument with Alone in the Dark. I wish they had something for that, and this game had it, and it was very convenient whenever I needed it.
I just always would forget and just never use it.
Oh, okay. Especially if I was in a corner trying to pick something up, I would just hit the quick turnaround to just hit the wall, spin around, and then I can walk without having to slowly turn my body around to start moving.
I'll give you that. That's a good idea. I would just hold the walk button and try and perfectly put myself where I needed to be. I mean, it's the same thing with the switches. It's just obnoxious.
Yeah, there was times I was trying to pick up a health pack. Most of my footage, you're going to see me struggling trying to pick up an object because you don't know if you're in the right spot or not.
I mean, I'll even go ahead and say, like, I don't think I ever picked up an object or hit a switch the first time I tried, almost ever.
Never. The only way you could hit a switch the first try is if it was right in front of you and you ran in a straight line right to it. That was the only time you could do it on the first try.
Or if you just somehow landed exactly where you needed to.
Which I was watching whenever I was watching the walkthrough after I was done. I realized that the way they do it is they use the shimmy buttons to move yourself over to the button. I forgot those buttons even existed.
That is a good idea. I was just going to say I forgot to. I don't know why I didn't think of it.
There was never a time I actually needed to use those buttons. So it wasn't until I watched the walkthrough I was like, damn it, that's a good idea.
Another one that I never ever used was like you can hang from a ledge and like move along it.
It might be just later in the game that you have to rely on that a lot. I used it more to get down from a high place. Like you hang and then you drop down from hanging.
There's barely ever fall damage though, and even if there is, it's only a little bit. So I would just be jumping everywhere.
Yeah, I did that too until I got too comfortable, and then I died a lot jumping off of a giant ledge and not realizing how high up I was.
By the way, the animation and the sounds when she dies from falling from a high place is brutal.
It very much so. But I do appreciate that they put in that effort to do that.
No, it's like funny, but it's like, geez, why is this here?
And I do love how if you jump and you grab a ledge, there's literally a sound effect of a thud of her body hitting the wall.
Or even when you just jump and hit something with your head or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like dunk.
There's all these little details that I love. It's just like in the training area, I noticed the thud like whenever I was jumping from box to box. And I just heard the thump whenever her body hit it. I was like, oh man, they actually went through the detail to do that.
All right. So pretty positive for a while here. But all of this, everything we've said, it's all tainted by the fact that this game is just not fun to actually play.
Not at all.
And like I had this inner struggle the whole time, even until yesterday. Like I feel compelled to play it because I like it.
Oh, you actually like it?
But I fucking hate playing it.
See, I didn't like playing it at all.
It's almost like it's satisfying in a weird way to kind of like go through these levels because you have to learn every little bit about them. You have to know where you're going. You have to like pretty much learn this whole map and slowly figure out what these puzzles are. I like that. And I think it's cool because like the way I played it was I played a good chunk, like a couple hours, and then a couple more nights this week, I just played one level a night. I think that is a really fun way to play this game because you quit before you get too frustrated until I quit when I got too frustrated. But at the same time though, like it's like I think about playing it and I think it's going to be fun, but then I'm actually playing it and I'm just annoyed that it sucks. You know what I'm trying to say here? It's so weird.
There's a lot of fun ideas with this game, but I feel like the movement and the camera destroy those fun ideas.
It's like a fun in theory.
Correct. Yeah. On paper, it works, but when you actually play it, it doesn't.
I think just what it really comes down to is it's too stiff and it feels a little too like specific about the way that you have to do things. So it's just so like rigid and like you're on a grid, right? Like it's this grid and you have to do it exactly this perfect way or it will not work. And this game wants to have the feeling of a sandbox game. That's at least what it seems like they're going for. And you can't have both of those things.
And after we played Alone in the Dark, you can see the comparison. It's night and day between the two games. Where Alone in the Dark, it was nice to move around. But this game, like you said, it's just clunky that even to turn, she has to like shimmy her body around to turn.
Feels like you're controlling a goddamn robot.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Explain it, yeah. And even to walk backwards, it's like very slow steps backwards. It's the only time you're moving fast is if you're running forward.
I will say, as you're comparing it to Alone in the Dark, remember that Alone in the Dark came out 5 years after this.
Yeah, I know. I do understand that. It's just being able to compare how the movements are between the characters.
No, I mean, I would not disagree that the controls with Alone in the Dark are way better. But I think everything else is better here than Alone in the Dark. The puzzle design, the like sense of exploration, I think it's all way better here.
Yeah, okay, I can agree with you on that one. Speaking of Alone in the Dark, remember in that episode how I said, if they're putting all this effort into the backgrounds, why didn't they just go full 3D?
Now you know why.
This game, I'm like, oh, this is why they didn't go full 3D with it. Because just how muddy, how gross it looks, how bad it looks. I'm like, oh, okay. I forgot how all these PlayStation games used to look back in the day.
It is kind of what it is. Like, the graphics are pretty bad. But with it being an early PS1 game and with it being so ambitious with these big environments, I kind of give it almost a pass. Not a full pass, but like almost a pass on that.
Yeah. They really do a lot. There's a lot of variety between every level. It's not like you're seeing the same things every single time.
And you also got to remember, we played the first, 4 or 5 levels out of 15. So I'm sure it goes other places. I would hope so anyway.
It's just crazy how we put 3.5 hours into this. And to me, it just feels like I put so much time into this when I really barely scratched the surface of what this game is.
I feel the same way, but at the same time, I also feel like I've almost seen everything this game has to offer.
I agree. It's, what's going to be different? Oh, a different animal that's going to attack me?
Yeah, like a different environment, a tougher platforming, whatever, different guns.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like the core gameplay will change.
Not at all. And that's why I was fine quitting when I did. Because I'm like, after all these levels, I feel like I saw everything. I do like, it's a one little bit of detail, nothing great, but in the saving gems, how you can see the reflection of your character and the environment.
I didn't even notice that. That's cool.
It's a nice little touch. Nothing game breaking, nothing amazing, but it's like, oh, that's a cool little detail. But it just seems like they put so much effort into these little details that they didn't put effort into the bigger game.
Yeah, it's like they missed on the fundamentals, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm having a struggle though, because like at the time, this was probably great. And like when we get to the reviews, you'll see, yeah, it was for the time. But playing it now with the modern controls in mind, or even, controls from fucking 5 years later, it's just really, really tough to go back to this.
Yeah. And that's why I'm curious on what these reviews are. But I think before that, we've already talked about how much should improve on the game. Is there anything else that you could think of?
Not really. I mean, my biggest problems are just the controls and the camera. And it's easy to see how a game would end up like this, because like early 3D cameras, even in the best of games, were still fucking weird. Like even Mario 64, which is like the one that people point to being the best, still has weird camera issues sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing more than I could think of. I did have one quote that I thought of while I was playing it. And it was, for a game that's all about platforming and collecting, it sucks at both platforming and collecting.
I mean, you're right.
That's just the best way to sum up this game. They put all of this into, this is what you're going to be doing, but it's a chore to do those things that you're supposed to be doing.
Like we were just saying in the beginning, if you fixed the camera and you fixed the controls, I think this could be a 9 or a 10.
Yeah, I agree. And have a bit more variety with the platforming than what we saw.
Yeah, but the platforming would be a lot more fun if the controls weren't annoying.
Yeah. No, I agree with that too.
All right, well, we're getting to the point where we're repeating ourselves, so let's go ahead and hop into these reviews. The game came out close to Mario 64. I felt that was worth writing down and mentioning, just because like this came out after it, so people playing this already had Mario 64 in mind, and obviously that compared to this, it's not even fucking close. But like a lot of the reviews were, not a lot of them, all of them were positive.
Which is crazy to think about.
A lot of them, and a lot of like lists from over the years, call this one of the greatest video games of all time.
I don't think I agree with that at all.
Maybe if you played it as a kid and you got your nostalgia goggles on.
No, but I did play it as a kid and I was so annoyed with it. Even back as a kid, I didn't like it at all.
I don't know. That is kind of the reasoning I get whenever I see a lot of these lists and it's like the same 5 games are like close to the number 1. It's like, dude, there are better games that have came out. Like you don't need to put 5 fucking Mario games in the top 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like just grow up and realize there are better games than the ones you played as a kid. It's just the way it's going to be.
I mean, that's why we even started the show.
I agree, and it's very easy to feel attacked. Like I feel like for a lot of these, the comments are going to be like yelling at us because we don't understand it or we don't like it. But it's like, it's not like we're fucking children. Like we've been playing video games our whole lives since the PS1. Like you have to look at it from now. And from now, Tomb Raider fucking sucks. Am I wrong?
Putting on the gloves on that one. I love it.
I just like, I even went, so I know we're supposed to be reading reviews right now, but I'm just going off.
Do it.
I went on Reddit because I Googled, and I'm not joking, is Tomb Raider PS1 bad? And I found a lot of Reddit threads of people talking about this, saying that it's still really good and like you just don't get it. You're just, you think games are too easy nowadays. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
It just seems like from that aspect, it's just, you have to be slow. You have to be methodical. It's supposed to be difficult and moving and stuff. It's like, no, that's not the way it should be.
Just because a game is difficult to play doesn't make it more satisfying. this is difficult in a way that is not intended, in my opinion.
100%, because you say that Dark Souls is difficult, but very fun. And it's just because of smooth controls and they know what they're doing when they're making that game.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's always fair.
Yeah. This is just you fighting the game and you knowing what you need to do, but you have to fight your character to do the thing you know you need to do. And that's just not good just because it's difficult.
And I would love for these sequels to be better too. Like, I don't think that the controls are going to change that much in the sequels, honestly, but like, there's a lot of Tomb Raider games on the PS1. So, you never know.
I've thought about that too while playing this. I'm like, I really hope that when we get to the later ones that they're a lot better. But I guess we'll see when we finally get to them.
Yeah. So GameSpot gave it an 8.5, one of the lower reviews. And they said, the most striking thing about Tomb Raider is its 3D environment. Players will explore immense caverns, often bigger than worlds in Mario 64, with fewer polygons, but polygons don't guarantee greatness, and zero delay after the load. While Tomb Raider may not be as clean as the 64-bit Mario, it is very impressive nonetheless. What's more, it has a compelling storyline and a great Indiana Jones-style heroine, resulting in a much more interesting atmosphere. Fans of Resident Evil, Mortal Kombat, and their gothic ilk may actually prefer Tomb Raider to Super Mario 64.
Let's just do both and then we'll talk about them.
Okay. Edge Magazine gave it a 9 out of 10, and they said, because of the clever camera system, yeah, all right, which follows Lara at all times and attempts to always provide the optimum view, there are bound to be times when, like Mario 64, its performance falters. This most often occurs when Lara is in a confined space and the camera simply can't get a grip on where to look. Also, you often have to attempt a run up to a jump with the camera facing Lara from the side because it can't get behind her to look ahead. Real quick, we did not mention the frame rate takes a huge fucking dip in big areas.
Does it? I don't think I noticed that at all.
The area with the T-Rex, I noticed there were some big dips.
Oh, maybe I just was so frustrated I wasn't really paying attention to that and I was just trying to run around and look, but I can't recall anything that I've noticed.
That was really the main one, but go ahead.
I like the whole of the camera always provides optimum view. I don't think I've ever disagreed more with a comment than that one.
Dude, like when you line up your jump and it's just like looking directly at her face. I'm like, what do you want me to do here? Just go for it? But you have to, we also didn't even talk about this. Whenever you jump, you have to jump at a very specific time. You can't jump too close to the edge or you'll just fall off. So you have to learn exactly when to push the jump button or else it just won't work.
What are you talking about? I never had a problem with the jumping. The jumping was fine for me.
You never had a problem when you're trying to line up a running jump where you push the jump button too late and you just don't jump?
No, because if you do the running jump, like you're talking about, you hold up and you push square immediately, right?
I'm talking like I back her up to a wall, I start running, and then I try and jump right before I get to the edge.
Oh, yeah, that's not how you're supposed to do that.
Well, it's how you do it in every other fucking game, dude.
Yeah, that's honestly, so in the tutorial level, they're like, oh, this one's going to be a running jump. And I did exactly what you're talking about. The problem with this game, if you're running, most of the time the jump doesn't work on command if you're running.
No, you're right. You have to like cue it up.
Yeah. So yeah, for that, what you're supposed to do is you push up and like immediately after pushing up, you hold square when you're holding up. And what she'll do is she'll run and she'll auto jump when she gets to the edge of the cliff.
I had no idea that you could do that.
Yeah. So that means you're making it so much more complicated on your end. But it is weird. I will give you that. It's very weird because if you push the jump button, it just is straight up and down. You have to like push jump and then hold the up button if you want her to go forward.
I did do that. Yeah.
And then same goes with backwards, left, and right.
I mean, there's jumps that you can't even do if you're running. Like you have to do it from standing, or she'll do the like thing where she slams into something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when you're running, you can kind of sometimes get her to jump while running, but it's very rare. And I could barely get it to work. Well, I mean, that makes more sense now to why you were having a hard time for a lot of the jumps.
I don't know. You got anything else to say about these reviews?
Well, yeah, the whole Mario thing where it's like, guys, hear me out. Mario looks better, it plays better, but does it? And it's like he's trying to like he's saying like, hey, we get Mario is Mario, we get you're gonna love it, but hear us out on why this game is better. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, no, it's like what if Mario was not Mario?
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's trying to sell you on this game for some reason. I get it. At the time, this was new.
I mean, like, okay, you can say that like Lara Croft is a better character than Mario. Like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't.
Yeah. What are you trying to say with that? It's really nothing. You're just saying a bunch of words that mean nothing.
Like, you're comparing like Indiana Jones to like fucking SpongeBob or something. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
or like Indiana Jones to Mickey Mouse. You know what I mean? It's like they're different things. So why compare them?
Yeah, it just feels like he really doesn't like Mario. So he really wanted to bash it as much as possible.
Yeah, I know he's like the only guy on their staff that didn't like Mario 64, and he's like, guys, Tomb Raider is so sick. I don't know, dude. I'm all fucking. I'm just riled up about this game. My review went down in the past like 15 minutes. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right, I'm giving this game a 5.
Well, you're just going right out the gate.
Yeah. I wrote down 5 to 6, but then I looked at our list and what I've been giving games because I want to be consistent. You know, there was that stretch where I was giving a lot of games like 6.5s, whatever. I think Soul of the Samurai is just better than this game.
Wait, what did you give it, a 5?
Yeah. And I gave Soul of the Samurai a 5.5.
Yeah, and I was looking at that as well. You know, like I think it's so obviously I put Alone in the Dark higher than Soul of the Samurai, but I felt like I did not like this more than Soul of the Samurai. And wow, this is the lowest. My initial was 4 to 4.5, and I think I've always been sticking with a 4, and I want to stay with a 4.
Well, you know, we have this little guide, right, for our scores that we kind of figured out before we started the first episode. And for a 5, for me, it says bad, but still has some positives. And that's kind of how I feel about this game. It's like, I like a lot of things in it, but the experience of playing it is just so bad that it's just unforgivable.
I am just impressed with how quickly you jumped into that score.
Been thinking about it this whole episode, thinking about it all day. I don't know. I really wanted to like this game because I like the vibe. You know, I like the story is a good setup. Like I like the character. I like a lot about it. It's just I don't know what else I could say. The act of playing the game sucks. So like no matter how much other dressing and things that are cool about it are around it, playing the actual thing is not fun.
It just is hilarious how worked you are with this game.
I know.
I agree. I completely agree. And I couldn't go with 4.5 because I gave Soul of a Samurai 4.5. I'm just like, I would, as much as I didn't like Soul of the Samurai, I would rather go back to that game than this game.
That's kind of where I'm at, yeah.
I did not have fun with Soul of the Samurai as much either. So, for our ranking, we have Tomb Raider at the very bottom of the list at a 4.5 average.
All right, Tomb Raider fans, be sure to unsubscribe and dislike this video.
There's going to be so many mean comments about this one. I can't wait for it.
Tomb Raider, the worst PlayStation game of all time.
I mean, fortunately, it's not going to stay at the bottom for long, but...
Oh, and there's not a chance in hell this will stay at the bottom, but...
No.
It's sad. You know? I really wanted to like this game.
But it's the same exact thing you said about Crash Bandicoot. Maybe they fixed a lot of this stuff in the later games, and with how many... I didn't realize how many there were for the PlayStation, but with all of them, maybe we're going to see a steady progression throughout the games, and they're going to slowly get better and better as we keep playing. Because the newest ones, I mean, they're great. From what I've seen, they are very smooth and they play very well. So
there's also apparently a remake of this game for the PS2 that's supposed to be pretty good.
Oh, I wonder what that's like.
I know it makes the controls better.
That would be a huge improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it. I don't like putting this at the bottom because it's, you know, it's a big series that a lot of people love, but like when you're playing a game and you're just not having fun no matter how hard you try, like what else are you supposed to do? I'm not going to rate it high just because a lot of people like the game.
I was really afraid that I was going to be very low and you're going to be like, oh, it's about a 6 or something.
I started this episode off thinking it was going to be a 6.
Oh, we would have definitely been arguing a lot more then.
But like, you know, like we said, like as the conversation goes on, like you can just feel it, right? Like I can just being mad about it and like talking about all the things that were frustrating. It just brings back those moments. And I can't, in, you know, good conscience, give this that high of a score.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it gives us hope. Maybe the future will be better for Tomb Raider.
Exactly. So, yeah, Tomb Raider is ranked at number 9. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next week.